It's time for the Money Puzzle Podcast, with good conversations and realistic solutions to the money puzzles we all face every day. I'm your host, financial advisor, chartered financial consultant, and president of Edgen Insurance and Financial, Robert Edgen. Now let's get this show started. Hi there, hello, and welcome to the Money Puzzle Podcast. I am Robert Edgen, and I'll be your guide for the ride for the next few minutes. Each week, we look at a different piece of the money puzzle and practical ways to solve it so you can have the financial confidence you deserve and the future that you dream of. Now, this is episode number 44, and today we're talking about the real reason that most people need to pay attention to their finances and do a little bit of planning. And that is so that they can keep the promises that they have made to people. Now, I'm actually recording this episode just before Valentine's Day, or, so we refer to it in the Edgen household, our wedding anniversary. That's right, I got married on Valentine's Day. Now, when my wife suggested Valentine's Day as our wedding date many, many years ago, I thought, absolutely, there is a date I will never forget, which is true. It is easy to remember your anniversary when it is on Valentine's Day. However, what didn't occur to me was that I would now be sharing my wedding anniversary with millions of people wanting to go out on Valentine's dates and dinners and do all of the other romantic stuff there is to do. Yes, after decades of marriage, I still believe in getting romantic on every possible occasion, which, if you ask me, is how you stay married for decades. You've got to be romantic. You got to keep dating. You got to keep the love alive, people. Anyway, now every December 15th, I'm making reservations or booking activities in order to avoid fighting with all of the other romantics out there. But I digress. And it's worth it, by the way. But on Valentine's Day, here in a few days, as my wife and I are out for a nice romantic dinner, we'll be celebrating the promises that we have made to each other throughout the years and all of those years ago. To love and to cherish, sickness and health, richer or poor, and all of that other stuff that we vowed to do. You know, we make a lot of promises to people in our lifetimes. We make promises to our kids, to support our spouses, to help our families, to provide opportunities for employees. The list goes on and on. But how serious do you take all of those promises? You know, this is February, and every February is Insure Your Love Month, which is sponsored and run by the Life Happens Foundation. Now, it's a month-long dedication all across America to looking at and reviewing your life insurance, and this year's theme is all about keeping your promises. And it got me thinking, that's exactly what all financial planning is really about, keeping your promises that you have made to yourself and to those that you care about. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. How do we keep the promises that we've made? Now, I'm excited to get into that conversation, and we've got a lot of awesome information to get through. But before we do, I thought we'd take a minute to look at some news. All right, sticking with the Love Month theme, today's story comes from UPI.com, and the headline reads, Hotel offers free stays for 18 years to couples who conceive during Valentine's special. Now, this is from a Canadian hotel who's offering an unusual Valentine's Day special with an even more unusual kicker, 18 years of free stays if the first day leads to a baby. This is from Hotel Z. They've got locations in Victoria and Kelowna, British Columbia, which I was actually in Kelowna, British Columbia last month. They said it's offering a Valentine's Day special, allowing guests to check in from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Valentine's Day. And if that stay produces a baby, you get one free overnight stay once per year for the next 18 years. Now, the hotel does go on to say, I don't think we're going to convince someone who's not thinking about having a baby to have a baby, but if you're serious about expanding your family, why wouldn't you try? I agree. They also say they don't discriminate, and the promotion works for both surrogacy, and adoption as well. Now, I checked into an overnight stay at the Hotel Z just to see kind of what this awesome bonus was equivalent to. And the good news is that the $250,000 or so it'll cost you to raise a child for 18 years will be offset by 18 $60 per night stays at Hotel Zed, which means it'll only cost you about $249,000 to raise that kid, and you get 18 breaks along the way. So this is a fun marketing trick to get people to pay attention to Hotel Zed for a few minutes, but if they really want to drive in the crowds and have them make it a bunch of babies, I feel like they should offer to pick up half of the tab for that kid's college or something, or maybe they were 25% responsible, so let them cover the diapers for the first 2 years. Something like that. All right, that's it for today's news. Let's go ahead and get into the main topic, the hot topic for today. For the most part, being a grown-up is about making and keeping promises. You meet someone, you fall in love, you start making all sorts of promises to them, then you start a family, and that involves promises that will really take most of your life to fulfill. You go get your dream job, you make promises to your employer, or you start a business, and you make promises to your employees and your clients. I have this guy that I work with, and he's always said that a promise made is a debt unpaid. And I think that's a great way of thinking about it. A promise made is a debt unpaid. It reminds me that promises aren't just the words that I throw around or the things that I try to get done or want to do. It is a debt that I have to pay. So when I promised my wife that I would provide her with a good life, that's a debt that I owed her. And when I promised my kids that I'd give them all of the opportunities in life that I didn't have, that's a debt that I owe them. So if you do take your promises seriously, how do you make sure that you keep them? A lot of financial planning that you do is for just those reasons, to make sure that you can pay those debts and keep those promises. There's really 3 different components to financial planning that will help you keep your promises. And the first is in the name, planning. The dictionary has some great definitions for the word plan. The first is an intention or decision about what one is going to do. Well, that's great, because if I plan on keeping my promises and providing a good life and providing opportunities, that's a decision or intention to do it. But the second definition is a detailed proposal for doing or achieving something. It's the how of your promise. If I were to promise to take you on a cross-country road trip and make sure that we hit all of the best destinations and tourist sites and show you the time of your life, you're probably going to want me to do a little bit of planning for our road trip. How do you know if you're going to stop at the world's largest rubber band ball if you don't even have, if it's not in your plans and you don't even know where it is? Marriage and a family is basically a cross-country road trip that takes you most of your life to get through. The question is, will you be stopping at all of the best destinations and the sights along the way, or will you plan nothing and end up with whatever life happens to give you? When you plan things, you know how they're going to work out in advance. And if you don't like how they're going to work out, then you can change your plans in advance until you do like the outcome. Planning not only helps you to keep your promises, but it helps you to keep them in the best possible way, the way that you want them to go. So think of planning as arranging your outcome in advance and arranging for the best possible outcome. I know you won't know every little speed bump or traffic jam and detour that's waiting for you on life's journey, but you will at least know that you're going to make it to your destination and how you're going to get there. And that leads us right into the second way that planning helps you keep your promises. It lets you measure and track your progress and make sure that you're on the right path. If you're driving the wrong way, speeding up and going faster only gets you farther away from where you really want to be. The point is, it doesn't matter how hard you work or how you try to keep your promises if you're working on the wrong things. Having a road sign and a map to follow and indicators that you've made a wrong turn all help you make corrections sooner and get where you want to be faster. And a financial plan is the roadmap. It provides the road signs and the mile markers so that you know that you're still going in the right direction. I know nothing ever goes completely as planned, but knowing how things should go will help you stay closer to the plan. And knowing when you're off track helps you be more efficient so things can go more smoothly. Think about this. The moon is about 238,855 miles away. Now, it's said that Apollo 11, our first mission to walk on the moon, was only on course about 7% of the time. Now, I don't know if that's really true or not, but that would mean that for every 30 minutes of flight, it was only on the correct course for about 30 seconds, and that it required constant little course corrections. It also leads me to believe that Mission Control was always tracking the path and checking to make sure that they were still on course. Imagine if they waited till they were halfway there or 75% of the trip was over before they checked to see if they were still heading in the right direction. They could have made a wrong turn and been halfway to Mars, and then it would have been impossible or taken them forever to get back on track. But because they checked regularly, they only had to make small corrections and adjustments to reach the moon. Now, you're probably not going to the moon, and you're probably not going that far in miles, but you will go about 28,835 days in your lifetime. If you wait until you're halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, if you wait until day 21,900 to see if you're on track, you're going to have to make some major adjustments if you're not. Or it might be too late and you might not ever be able to get to the destination that you have been shooting for. So it's as simple as this. The longer you have to go, the smaller adjustments that you need to make to stay on course. And the faster you fix little problems, the less likely they are to become big problems. Well, how do you know if you've got a little problem? You track your progress towards your destination, which means you've got to have a plan or a map to compare your progress to, and that's where financial planning comes in. Now, the third way that financial planning helps you keep your promises is by giving you the opportunity to make sure that your plans are self-completing. When you promise to give your family a better life and your kids an education and your spouse an awesome retirement, you are committing to yourself to the promises that are going to take most of your life to complete. But what if you aren't given an entire life to get the job done? What if you're only given half a life to get it done? Did you mean that you only want your kids to have an education if everything goes perfectly for you and you're alive and well to make it happen? Or did you mean that you wanted it for them regardless of what happens to you? You know, a little bit of planning in advance can make sure that your wishes and dreams for your family are self-completing, that your promises will be kept even if you're not there to keep them yourself. Life insurance is one way that you make sure your plans and your promises are kept. Life insurance takes over on paying for things when you cannot. It funds the kids' education and your spouse's retirement. It pays off the house that you had planned on paying off. The self-completing ability of life insurance is what makes it such an important part of a financial plan. But there are other things that you can and should do through your plan as well. If you pass away before retirement age, who gets the retirement money? Probably your spouse if you're married, but what should they do with it? Should they take the tax hit and pay off the house early? Should they roll it into their own 401k or just leave it alone and give it to the kids? What about your other investments or rental properties? How should those be handled? Knowing in advance how things should be handled if you're not there to handle it can make things a lot more stress-free for your family. And knowing that finances are handled actually makes for a better relationship anyways, and it helps keep your spouse happier because most relationships break up due to financial problems. Knowing that financial problems are already planned for and things are going to be okay removes a lot of relationship stress, and it leads to a happier relationship and a happier spouse. So, if you really want to show your romantic side this February, schedule yourself and your significant other a couples meeting with your financial advisor and buy your significant other a new financial plan. What you'll really be buying them is financial peace of mind. And you know what they say, nothing says loving like an updated financial plan to make sure you keep your promises even if you can't keep them yourself. At least that's what I always say. All right, a little bit of a different show today in the spirit of Love Month and Valentine's Day and my wedding anniversary and Ensure Your Love Month. I appreciate you letting me get a little philosophical with you for a few minutes and share the 3 different ways that planning helps you keep your promises to the people that you love. I'll be back next week with my business partner, Brian. We'll be diving into some investment myths and some other things over the next few weeks. That should be some great conversations, but for now, that's it for this week. I hope that you got some value from the show. If you did, please make sure that you share us with a friend or a family member who needs to get some financial confidence into their lives. Make sure that you give us a like on YouTube and a thumbs up. Like us on the podcast. Find us on Facebook. And make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss any shows. If you've got any of your own financial questions that you need answered to solve your own money puzzle, email them to us at questions@yourmoneypuzzle.com. That's it for this week. Until next week, be safe, have some fun, and do something to help solve your money puzzle. Your future self will thank you for it. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Registered representative of and securities offered through Securities Management and Research, Inc., SM&R. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through BFC Planning, Inc. Edgen Insurance and Financial Services, Johnson Financial Services, SM&R, American National Family of Companies, and BFC Planning are independent entities. There are risks involved with investing which may include market fluctuation and possible loss of principal value. Particular investments may not be suitable for certain situations. Carefully consider the risks and possible consequences involved prior to making an investment decision. Our firm does not provide legal or tax advice. Be sure to consult with your own legal and tax advisors before taking any action that may have tax implications.